You know, one of the things I'd like to talk about on here is when you're doing truly independent filmmaking. And technically, independent is just not part of the studio system or big studios. But you can have big dollar independent movies. I mean, technically, the Marvel movies before Disney bought them were independent films. But I think one of the things that's interesting when you talk about true independent films and truly low budget. Maybe the best thing to say is not independent films, but low budget. Low budget filmmaking is when everybody's personal life interferes with getting things done. And that's not even saying interfere in like a bad way. It's just like you don't have a backup person to come in and shoot something. You don't have somebody on set that could do this. You don't have options when it comes to shoot lists. Even though you should develop things like that. A friend of mine who shoots documentaries told me once that when he goes in to shoot something, he always thinks in his head, what do I do in case this doesn't work out? Yeah. Like he's told me think of shooting B-roll if you can't do other stuff. But that's one of the things that you got to think about when you're truly independent, truly low budget, is what do you do when you can't do the thing you want? And I'd like to talk about in this episode is how the development of The Real Trees happened from when it was originally going to be a short film, and I was working on it with a number of people, and they just all just kind of like bailed. But the thing is, when you're truly low budget and stuff like that, when somebody bails on you, it's not a matter of somebody just quitting. It's a matter of you don't hear from them anymore. Is basically what it is. So when that happened, I decided it bothered me a lot, and I put Project Channel on the side, and then I decided after getting into watching some Doctor Who fan films again, and there's some really good ones. And on our podcast, Brain Leakage, we're going to be reviewing some here the next couple. Like Brain Leakage is the podcast where we review Doctor Who episodes from the very beginning. Now, we're still at the very start of it because everything gets in the way of everything as you do a lot of different projects. But I decided to jump in as we've done with comics and stuff over time. I'm going to jump in and review a couple of Doctor Who fan film series. But getting back to the original topic I was talking about, when I started watching some of those, I got interested, and I'm like, why don't I just make this idea, this story, into a web series? I was very much a big part of series like The Guild and stuff like that, and I was like, 9-minute episodes, it won't be that expensive really to do. There's a lot of people I know locally to work with and stuff like that. Basically plans and everything. So I wrote, I think originally it was going to be 10 episodes. I wrote like 10 scripts. And they weren't long, but they had quite a few people in it in several locations. Then I started trying to get people interested in the project. And I couldn't find anybody that really wanted to work on, not just on it, work on anything like that. So many people just want to do fan stuff, which is cool. That's cool. That's your thing. You want to make fan videos and stuff like that. But those were the people I approached that I'd seen do fan videos and fan productions. And I'm like, I thought you'd be interested in this, but they don't want to do original projects and stuff like that. Again, not saying original in a bad way. So as the story continues, I kind of toned the story back some, and things changed. The circle character come in, and I don't want to do spoilers, but she came in as an approach to the changing of the script and how it evolved. And from there, I decided that it was going to be more of the aftermath of battles, and then projects like Trees Sacrifices, which is our Patreon comic for $1 a month. You get a new comic every month. that shows the prequel, and that will show more of the horror side of the character, how he became who he was. And then I was like, I had this idea for an audio story, and that's Tree's Fake Emergency, which you can find on Tim Pod Radio on all your podcasting platforms, uh, which is kind of like a propaganda thing, like the government's propaganda against human heroes and beyond humans in general. So you'll get to see kind of the perception of him going into the series. So you got this origin stuff you learn about him, and then you got how people were seeing him, and then and as I was thinking about this before I even started those two projects, I was like, okay, I want to do these short trailers, and the purpose has always been to do these teaser episodes of the Real Trees is as I learn stuff, as I learn, vanishing, teleportation, and all kinds of effects. I could create these little micro films and micro episodes. I mean, not that the whole series. This whole series is going to be 9-minute episodes, but these are even smaller things. And if I knew at the time about TikTok, I would actually use TikTok for that instead of using the YouTube main channel for that. But some of those end up being longer in the future. Some of those will be longer than what I've done on the TikTok stuff. Now the TikTok stuff is basically very, very brief things of like I got a vision after seeing something at Kennedy Space Center. It was like, oh, that's how I envision when Popey come to Earth. So it's a very brief thing I put on the TikTok of that. So it's just ideas. So TikTok fills that thing I want to do with that. Though I've tried Snapchat, I don't think it's really going to work out to be anything creative for me to use and do. But getting back to the story development of Trees, once I toned it back some, and it was going to be the aftermath, it was still involving probably 5 or 6 actors per episode, and then the episodes were a lot longer than what they were, and what I really want to do in the future with it is have about that many actors per episode, and it's going to have almost a skit quality to it in a way that reflects how he thinks, how Anchor thinks, but I had to tone it back again because I was having problems getting people to be reliable, even though everybody that's working on Trees is getting paid for it. And I've actually been criticized for a couple of local filmmakers for paying people. They're like, oh, but people who work on my stuff work for free. And I'm like, do they get a cut of your film if you end up making money on it? I mean, are you cutting them in on profits, or are you just buying them pizza or something? Which is fine if you can get your friends to work for that, but I don't want to do things that way. I'd rather pay people to work on the Real Trees episodes. And that's the plan, and that's the way things are going to happen with it. It's going to be paid. Every actor and stuff's going to be paid. So I trimmed it back again to what it is now. And some of the episodes are actually, they're 9 minutes each, but some of them are brief and they're cuts. And I had to go back and watch some of what I consider the best web series stuff again, once again mentioning the Guild, of how even though you got this storyline that runs through the season, it is very quickly you get from this point to this point, but you don't really notice it's going by as quickly as it does, because it accomplishes what it wants to do with the episode, and then as part of that whole, that's when I went back and rewrote until what we have now, which I think will be something that people will be interested in and enjoy. I wanted to give this brief thing so talk about when you're doing independent filmmaking and very low budget filmmaking, you're constantly having to evolve your thinking and your changes as you go along to maybe steer your vision in a different direction, because you have to. You don't have the people, you don't have the cast, you don't have the perfect locations, you don't have backup. You have backup plans. You don't have backup plans for necessarily for what you're going to do. You have backup plans to do something differently, so your time's not wasted. So I think with independent filmmaking, and especially very low budget filmmaking, that is one of the biggest things you got to learn how to do, is evolve and change as the project goes, because the evolving and the changing as the project goes is continuous and never stopping. So I hope you enjoyed this little discussion of how this thing went, go to 10universe.blogspot.com, and we just released a new episode. If you go to 10 Pod Radio, as I mentioned earlier, on all podcasting platforms, new episode of 10 Pod, adapting one of our ebooks, which you can find all our ebooks on Smashwords if you search on the 10 Universe. Have a good night.